Does your genealogy research need a little boost? Are you looking for some inspiration on different websites that you might be able to use for your ancestry research? Well, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 websites that I have currently been using the most in my genealogy research. Hey there, if we haven't met before, I am Lisa with Are You My Cousin, and this YouTube channel is designed to help you find your ancestors, grow your family tree, but not be overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. Now, today's video is sponsored by Newspaperscom, and I will share with you a little bit more about them in a moment. Okay, so recently I was on vacation, and as often happens when I meet people on vacation or really even at the grocery store, I find myself talking about genealogy with them. When they find out that I research for ancestors, people will always ask questions. And I had a really wonderful conversation with a young woman about kind of my favorite sites about research and genealogy research. She was curious what were some of the sites that perhaps she might want to look at that she hadn't used before. And I got to thinking about that because I use a lot of different genealogy websites. Some are genealogy specific, some are not genealogy specific at all, as you know. And so I wanted to share with you really what I'm using in my current research today. Okay, so that's if you're watching this at a later time, I'm recording this in January of 2024. And for my current research needs, these are the sites that I use the most. That doesn't mean I don't use other resources and websites. I absolutely do. But these have been kind of meeting some of the needs that I've recently been having in my research. So I wanted to share with you the top ones that I've been personally using the most. Okay, so one of the genealogy websites that I use most often currently is Ancestry.com. I realize that's probably not a surprise to many people, but I do use Ancestry quite a bit. Currently in my personal research, I'm actually starting to explore some of these other lesser known lines to me, I should say lesser known to me lines on my family tree. And so as you can see, Ancestry has been making some upgrades over the last year. They are having some hints. They're providing me some hints here as well with some of the ancestors that potentially could be my ancestors. And so I really like this feature. It really kind of saves me some time when it comes to researching. Again, these are hints. And remember, we always have to be super careful with our hints. Any of these little green shaky leaves, or they're not shaking anymore, the green leaves. But I like the fact that they are suggesting some potential matches here that are going to give me a leg up on my research. I also, because I have DNA tested at Ancestry, I do check that one as well to see if I have new matches that might be helpful in some of my research as well. So no surprise here that I use Ancestry quite a bit when it comes to my genealogy research. Now, second on my list is MyHeritage. I am using MyHeritage a lot these days. There are a lot of advantages to having genealogy or family trees at multiple genealogy databases. And I actually do have a family tree on each of the databases. Now, the reason I do that is because I want to make sure that I'm not missing out on records or connections to ancestors simply because I'm on a different database than perhaps another user who has important information, or the different sites certainly have different collections. So I want to make sure that I'm really covering my bases to be fully comprehensive when it comes to finding my ancestors and hitting those brick walls. Now, there are a couple of features too that I really like at MyHeritage as well. Again, their family tree, I actually like their using their timeline feature quite a bit when it comes to my family tree. You can find it under family tree, drop down and hit that timeline feature there. And I like the way that it allows me to look at my ancestors across times. As you guys know, if you've watched other videos, and I can put links to them in the description below, I use timelines a lot in my genealogy research. They are just something I automatically now do. They are part of my workflow when it comes to researching my ancestors. And I really like the way it's presented in MyHeritage on that. The other thing, MyHeritage, and as well as some of the others, are putting out new AI type of tools. And so I am having a lot of fun over here exploring the AI record search over at MyHeritage as well. So just another option, oftentimes looking at things in a different way when things are presented in a different way, capturing records that might not be on every database. So it just gives me an opportunity to do that as well. Now, let me know in the comments below What's one or two genealogy websites that you're currently using the most for your genealogy research? It doesn't even have to be a genealogy specific website, but I'd be curious to hear what you guys are using the most, because really I want to learn from you as well. You might have a real gem out there that I haven't tried before, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to learn from each other. Now, today's video is sponsored by Newspapers.com. And I don't know about you guys, but I think of newspapers as time machines in a way, because they allow us to see our ancestors in real time. We can look at their lives, we can look at them specifically, we can look at their community, we can understand what's happening in the world around them. And that's all crucial information for our genealogy research. One of the things that I particularly like about newspapers.com is literally the size of their collection. It is over 800 million digitized pages, and it continues to grow as well. So I encourage you to think of newspapers as a time machine for your genealogy research. Use them as such so that you can get to know your ancestors a little bit better. Now, for Are You My Cousin viewers, newspapers.com is offering a 20% discount off of their Publisher Extra subscription. Just use the coupon code Are You My Cousin at checkout. You'll also find that coupon code in the description below as well. So you have no reason not to get started digging into newspapers and using them as your own personal time machine to travel back and take a peek at your ancestors. Next up is probably no surprise to you guys that I'm using newspapers.com a lot in my research. Again, it's all about social history, finding those facts that can be documented, but also learning about the stories of my ancestor. Again, it's my little time machine that I can zip back in time and look at my ancestors and what's happening. Here's really a gem that I had found, which was an obituary for someone on my husband's side of the family, Minnie Jacobs. It was a fabulous little find here. We not only have her very full obituary with her name and her husband mentioned, her street address, we also have a fabulous photograph of her as well. And again, it tells a lot about her life. It details her life. She was very active in her temple. It tells where she was born in Russia. It says she came to the United States 54 years ago. Guys, I didn't know that. That was a really nice little gem. I can do the math, find out when she came. I know she came with her parents, where she settled in Brooklyn. I have a place to start researching that family and take her side of the family back a little further. So this was a really nice find to me, and it just details her life quite nicely for me to create more to my genealogy research plan on her. So I was super excited to find that. And again, this is the kind of thing that I use newspapers.com for and really get into my newspaper research. Now, here's another website, and it's almost really more of a collection of websites that you will find very helpful in your research. This is actually the USGenWeb. There we go. The USGenWeb project that has been around for quite a while now, and it is all volunteer information, but it's a really fabulous way to learn about the genealogy resources and genealogy research within specific states and at the county level. I believe this was actually started in 1996. It is, again, completely volunteer supported, and so your information is going to vary across the states and across the counties, but let me give you an idea of what the types of things that you can potentially find here on USGenWeb. So this is a site that I like to go to. It's a wonderful place, actually, sometimes just to start at. It is one that I've been using a little bit more recently. I had used it a lot in my early research, had not been using it as much while, and now I'm kind of circling back to it as well. So again, it's one of these, as you can see, sometimes what I'm using the most will it does fluctuate. Now, I did click on North Carolina because that's obviously a place I do a lot of research where my ancestors came from. Again, so it takes us to the state level GenWeb process or project page. So you've got a state level, but then you can also actually take it on down into the county level. Now, there are 100 counties in North Carolina. If I click on the map, I'm going to drill down to, let's just take this first one, Alamance County. Okay, so we are over here on the Alamance County, North Carolina GenWeb page. So this is the county page on the state GenWeb page. And this, again, this is all information that has been uploaded and supported by volunteers. So you can get kind of an eclectic look at what's here. But I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what types of records and data that you might potentially find on one of these pages. And again, so we have an extensive collection of obituaries. They've broken it down. Looks like some from the newspapers. Looks like they've got some from churches, which can be very, very helpful. Those are not always as easy to find, so that can be very helpful to do. They have church a church history that's been posted here. Again, guys, these are the kinds of things that you can find at these USGenWeb sites and some of the county sites. It does vary by county, state by state. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But if you don't look for these things, then you might miss out on some really good gems of resources that, could potentially have exactly what you need. You guys know I love researching church records because that tells us a lot about our ancestors. And look, they have church records here. They also have some cemetery records that have been uploaded. So again, you can start to see the types of information that could potentially be here: wills, estates, county records. Some of these things can be they might just be an index, or a transcription. But again, we're always looking for those clues that we could potentially find and use in our research. And I don't know about you, but I do not want to miss one of them. So number 5 on my list is actually digital collections at state archives. So I'm going to kind of use a broad category for that. For my personal research, I'm using North Carolina digital collections from the North Carolina State Archives as my example, because this is the one that I use probably most frequently because, well, I have a lot of North Carolina ancestors. But again, wherever you research, you want to check out the digital collections where your ancestors live for that state. But here's kind of what I'm looking at when I do that. And this is why I've been using the digital collections so much recently, because I am kind of expanding out on some of my lines here in North Carolina, but I always go back and check with the digital collections. These are updated. And so I want to make sure I'm not missing something simply because it wasn't here the last time I checked. So I do check these periodically to see what new collections might be out there. But again, what types of things might I be looking for? I'm looking at photograph type of collections. Here's one. If you are an African-American researcher here in North Carolina, this is an absolutely fabulous collection, the African-American education one. And I love it because they talk a lot about the women. And so it's just a really fantastic collection. Again, I'm looking for photograph collections coming down. Some of the things that I'm seeing would be cohabitation records, which would be very helpful for researchers. There are some Confederate pension applications that can be very helpful. Colonial court records. Again, you can see the types of records that are being digitized and put up there. Many archives will have family records type of collection out there. It might vary. It could be family Bibles. It could be donated family materials. I check these because I want to see what's being added to that collection, or as I start a new personal family line, this is one of the places I like to go to and look at. So I've been digging into these a lot more recently as I expand some of my own personal research. Let's see, what else am I looking at down here? There's a lot of this was the one I hadn't used before that I'm going to dig into, oral history materials. You guys know I love a good oral history. We can see what's there on that. So these are the kinds of things that I'm using in the digital collections from estate archives. There's just so much out there that I want to make sure I'm not missing. I also want to make sure that the other thing is, as I plan trips to the archives, I want to make sure and double check their collections so that if it's something I can research from home, so for instance, the Secretary of State wills, if that's something that I can do from home, then I can do that and save my travel. I save on travel time, save on finding a place to park, and all of that at the archives. So I've been digging really deep into these digital collections recently, kind of filling out some research as well as preparing for an on-site research where I can save some time and energy and make sure I'm making the best use of my time on site when I'm there. Now, I hope you found it helpful to kind of get an idea of what I'm using currently the most. Again, like I mentioned at the top of the video, I do use more than just these 5 when it comes to my genealogy research. But for my current research needs, these are the ones that I'm using. If you'd like to learn more about finding your ancestors in the records, be sure and watch the video on your screen now.